Last month I tried to take a Pearson VUE exam online for a state insurance exam. Having previously been through an unpleasant and stressful experience last year with Pearson VUE's online exam system, I stupidly thought that this year might be a better experience. I'm here to tell you it was not. It was worse. Far worse. It was a total disaster and a big waste of time trying to take Pearson VUE's exam online. For those of you who don't know who Pearson VUE is, they are one of the largest, if not the largest, third-party provider of certification and licensing exams in the world. They are hired by state licensing agencies, tech companies, and other organizations to administer and proctor secured exams to candidates seeking a professional occupational license or a professional technical certification. These exams are required for candidates seeking specific licenses and certifications, and Pearson VUE is the only exam provider you can use for these particular licenses and certifications. They come very close to having a monopoly on this as far as I'm concerned. Pearson VUE has been around in one form or another since the 1990s, and I've generally had good experiences with them over the years when I needed to take a required certification exam. Traditionally, people make an exam appointment either by phone or online for a local testing center. Exam candidates that don't have a local testing center have to travel further to take these exams. Appointments are typically made days or even weeks in advance, depending on where and when you want to schedule the exam. However, during the COVID shutdowns in 2020, all testing center exams came to a screeching halt. Since the COVID shutdown, testing centers gradually opened up and many should now be at full capacity. But many testing centers and test administrators won't allow exam candidates to pack into testing rooms like sardines anymore. So even when testing centers began opening up, there were far fewer exam seats available. Because of testing center shutdowns during COVID, there was a backlog of candidates who needed to take their exams. Pearson VUE rolled out their OnVUE exam proctoring system in an effort to make it easier and convenient for some candidates to take their exams without having to go to a local testing center. And it was generally a good idea in concept. However, in order to take advantage of this, in theory, you had to have a quiet private room where you couldn't get interrupted with a computer that had decent specs connected to a webcam, microphone, and speakers. You also needed a sufficiently high speed and solid internet connection. You then download diagnostic software to your computer, test your webcam, microphone, and speakers to make sure they run properly. This hardware setup is so the proctor can monitor and stay in contact with an exam candidate to prevent cheating, but they also use it to screen the environment you're in. The trial OnVUE software allows you to check and make sure the actual exam software will run on your computer. So my first warning to you is if everything I just said about setting up your computer sounds stressful or complicated, then you just go ahead and need to stop right now. My advice is to sign up to take your exam at a local testing center. They handle all the technical issues of the testing computer, and some people are simply not technical enough to test their own computer setup and go through all the shenanigans. However, I am technically savvy. I spent a fair amount of time checking and verifying the technical requirements. I encountered some weird glitches with the test exam software. It would work on one computer, but have errors on another. It was a weird thing. However, if you want to push forward like I did, the next show-stopping issue is what kind of room will you be taking your exam in? And if you think having a private office or a private bedroom with a computer on a desk or table will work, think again. Look hard at your desk, your walls, your decor, and your furnishings. Everything on your desk will have to be removed. Even pictures, diplomas, or decorations on your walls might have to be removed. If you have shelves, cabinets, or furniture that have objects and things on them, they may also need to be removed or covered. Something I think you should really consider is my cat, Jaggy. My cat, Jaggy, wants you to swipe that like button to help share this video to other exam takers. As a special bonus, if you hit that subscribe button. I will make sure that Jaggy gets a special treat. I saw a video where a woman says she threw entire bed sheets that covered nearly everything she had in her room. She also discussed walling off your room by hanging white sheets from the ceiling to enclose your exam desk area. I don't know about you, but the idea of hanging and using bed sheets to enclose your exam testing area is nonsensical to me. So is the idea of removing decorations from walls and non-paper objects from all kinds of surfaces. It's impractical for people like me who have lived in homes with stuff and have working desks to remove every object, paper, and device from every table, desk, or surface all around me. It is a working area in a bedroom at home, not simply a little empty room dedicated to a computer workstation. What you need to know is that cheating on exams is rampant, and that is one of the reasons for this paranoid exercise. In fact, I stumbled onto YouTube videos that teach people how to cheat on online exams. It's a bizarre thing. It is a surefire way to be disqualified from taking any exam anywhere. Because Pearson VUE likely knows about these how to cheat videos, you as an exam candidate will have to endure the painful process of being treated like a potential exam cheater. As I said, I managed to take a Pearson OnVUE exam last year. I went through a long communication and screening process through 2 exam screeners for one little exam. The first exam screener kept insisting I wasn't allowed to take the exam, but I was rightfully and lawfully allowed to. It was difficult trying to explain in a way the person could understand. She placed me into a waiting queue for another coworker to deal with. She pushed me off. When I spoke to my second exam screener, I had to swing my webcam throughout and around and under my desk and all over the room multiple times to prove that I was alone in a secure room. The exam screeners I dealt with had a thick Indian accent, and they appeared to work overseas. I found them very difficult to understand when they spoke, and when you speak English, they don't always understand you. You have to use simple, proper English to speak with them if you want them to understand you. I've read many complaints where the online proctors are rude. My proctors were not rude, but they were not overly friendly either. Honestly, I got exasperated with them and the entire screening process. From other complaints I've read, these exam proctors have a lot of discretion to accuse an exam candidate of cheating. If you move the wrong way, shift your body in the wrong way, or they hear any noises or any kind of weird things going on, you could be accused of cheating and have the exam shut down right then and there. For me, it's quite natural for me to shift my body, shift my neck and arms, pull back my shoulders, stretch my arms, take a drink of water, and breathe out audibly occasionally, especially if I'm taking a stressful exam. I can't sit like a statue the entire time and take my exam. It's just not very conducive to doing well on the exam. I remembered being stressed, sweating, and trying not to move in any sudden or unexpected manner where I could be accused of cheating. You have to be seen and heard at all times via webcam. You can't be doing this, going off camera, right? You can't do this. There's just a lot of things you can't do. You've got to be within the webcam view. The only saving grace I had with that exam last year is that it was a relatively short exam, which I completed in under an hour. There are many exams that require 2 or more hours. How can anyone sit stiffly in one position for even 1 hour? In a traditional proctored exam room, I have flexibility to stretch, shift my body, adjust my chair, let out a loud breath like without fear of being wrongfully accused of cheating. On the Pearson VUE website, it says you can log in 30 minutes in advance of your appointment time, which I did. It also says you will likely wait only 15 minutes. Well, I can tell you last year, my initial wait time was around 20 minutes. It took me almost an hour before I could start my exam by the time I got through the waiting and screening process. Compare last year to this year. When I logged in, I saw there were 140 candidates waiting in queue ahead of me. I about lost my mind when I saw that number. When I saw the 140 number, I thought there was little chance I would speak to anyone within 30 minutes. I just didn't see it happening. I ended up waiting 1 hour before it was my turn. There was a long pause when I assumed a screener was going through the room photos I submitted earlier on my phone. And then without warning, there was a generic message on screen that stated that I had technical problems and was going to be placed into the waiting queue. But that was a lot of BS. I had no technical problems. My computer was working fine. I could clearly see myself on screen through the webcam. I was also able to see the candidate countdown. I was sitting there like a stiff waiting on them. The second waiting queue had 150 candidates ahead of me. It was unbelievable. Again, I sat mindlessly stewing away trying to pass time. Because I had waited over an hour the first time, I really needed to go to the bathroom. According to the rules, I'm not supposed to leave the camera, but what was I supposed to do? Pee in the chair on camera? The software tells you to not disconnect or you might lose your exam. So I was scared to death to disconnect. So I had no choice. I had to go pee, so I went off camera for a couple of minutes, take care of business, and came back. The countdown of waiting for 150 candidates in queue was painfully slow. I watched the number tick down once a minute. I tried to get help from the Pearson online help chat with no success. No one ever answers. No one ever responds. The instructions tell you to keep your phone nearby, but out of reach in case someone needs to call you. But that's also BS. No one reached out to me despite attempts to ask for help and status through the help chat window. No one reached out to me when I supposedly had technical problems. The whole thing was just BS. Again, it took over an hour. There was another short pause when it was finally my turn, and guess what? Then I was disconnected. I about lost my mind after sitting and waiting to take an exam for 2 hours on a Saturday evening. There was no phone number to call at that hour and no response from anyone from the help chat window. It was just unbelievable. I was thoroughly disgusted by the experience and I was pissed. I was pissed that I lost over 2 hours of my life sitting mindlessly in that chair looking at the computer screen. I was pissed that Pearson VUE is full of crap in what they promise on their website. It is not even close. Remember, this is my second time with these OnVUE exams, and what it says on their website does not match the reality of how OnVUE exams work. It was only afterwards I started digging and researching online complaints into Pearson VUE that I found there was an epidemic of complaints over Pearson VUE's online exam system. Clicking all the contact and help sections on the Pearson VUE website reveals very few help options. Your best option is to call a toll-free number during business hours and hope to be routed to the correct person. My advice to you is that unless you have a near empty room with very few furnishings and you're willing to deal with an overseas proctor who speaks very poor English, just stay away. You will be treated as a potential exam cheater. In a traditional testing center, you don't have to deal with these kinds of hassles. You deal with a real-life person who can see, listen, and understand you. Their computers work, and everything is set up ready to go without the hassle of a long screening and inquisition. However, if you had a problem like I did, not being able to take your exam, the best thing to do is to get your money back and then register online to take your exam at a local testing center. Pearson VUE apparently gets a lot of complaints. A Google search reveals an awful lot. The standard spiel on the Pearson VUE website and customer service is that if you make a complaint, you will get a response in 4 to 5 days. I can tell you that never happened. I waited the 4 or 5 days and heard nothing. I had to call in again. After 3 phone calls to complain and follow up, I was told by the 3rd person that I spoke to that it's not uncommon for people to wait much longer than 5 days. Much longer. What I'm trying to tell you is that Pearson VUE has more complaints and issues than they let on. And the timeline of complaints and problem resolution is much longer than is reported. I have learned that Pearson VUE's operation has several departments, and they seem to have very little connection to one another. For example, customer service, they're generally pretty nice, but they have little or no connection to Pearson VUE's overseas proctoring team. I was told they hear a lot of complaints with their online exams. The customer service team are generally respectful, but if you are trying to get your money back, I highly recommend that you politely suggest escalating your case to a supervisor like I did. If I had not done that, I would have waited much longer than 5 days I had already lost to get my money back for an exam that I was never allowed to take. They wouldn't let me take it. Now, don't attack or insult the customer service person. Customer service employees are trying to handle problems that they didn't cause. So you will need their empathy and goodwill to escalate or redirect your complaint to someone who can resolve your problem and get your money back. I'm happy to report that once I spoke to the right customer service person and they escalated my call, I was able to finally get my money back with a refund on my credit card. But it took a few calls across a few days to get this done. Again, it was just a horrific experience from beginning to end trying to take Pearson VUE's online exam. It was a horrible, stupid decision on my part, having been through what I went through last year. I think you should just save yourself the hassle and headache and stop dealing with these online exams from Pearson VUE. I should note that it has been many years since I took an exam at a Pearson VUE testing center. But I have to say, it was a great experience going through the traditional route. It was very smooth, and I recommend taking the traditional route. Pearson VUE's exam registration process is very good. It has never been a problem registering or even changing exam schedules. They have a very good system in that regard. When I got to the local testing center, the woman was pleasant, prepared, and efficiently had me sign some papers and lock up my personal belongings. None of this bothered me. And when I went into the exam room, I stayed for the entire 2.5 hours. I moved around, shifted my shoulders and body, and periodically stretched my arms and legs without fear of any cheating accusations. They had cameras on me, and I really wasn't worried about it. Because of this, I was more focused and less stressed when I took my exam. And on top of it all, I'm happy to report that I passed my exam on the first try. Thank you for watching, and remember to swipe that like button to help spread the word on this video. And I will see you in my next video.